evening, all. Right, we'll try that again. There we go. Thank you for coming. It's great that you guys are out to support us and did support us as a group through us collecting all the donations and then heading out to Moldova. And what we wanted to do tonight is really just share with you some of that experience, show you some of the photos and share some of the stories that were part of the trip out there to Moldova. I want to share with you a reading before we do that though. It's from Mark 16, verse 9. It says, "Now when he rose early on the first day of the week, he appeared to Mary Magdalene, from whom he had cast out 7 demons. She went and told those who had been with him, as they mourned and wept. But when they heard that he was alive and had been seen by her, they would not believe it. After these things he appeared in another form to 2 of them, as they were walking into the country. And they went back and told the rest, but they did not believe them. Afterwards he appeared to the 11 themselves, as they were reclining at the table, and he rebuked them for their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they had not believed those who saw him after he had risen. And he said to them, 'Go into all the world and proclaim the gospel to the whole creation. Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but whoever does not believe will be condemned. And these things will accompany those who believe. In my name they will cast out demons, they will speak in new tongues, they will pick up serpents with their hands, and if they drink any deadly poison it will not hurt them. They will lay hands on the sick, and they will recover.' So then the Lord Jesus, after he had spoken to them, was taken up into heaven, and sat down at the right hand of God. And they went out, and they preached everywhere, where the Lord worked with them, and confirmed the message by accompanying signs." As we said this morning, go. And that's what we did. And we'd like to share some of that with you tonight. There should be, could you pass me that, Frank, behind you there, the wee remote control thing? So why have I got the guys sitting out in front of you all?
You're asking the same as well.
I want you to see the team. Did you ever meet such a bunch as that? I include myself in that, by the way. We are an unlikely team. He wouldn't necessarily put us all together, but God thought that he would. And we're incredibly thankful for that. So let me share with you some details of our trip. I'm going to just share a wee bit of information, and then I'm going to get the guys to tell you the stories that have affected them, the stories that mean the most to them. And they're getting 5 minutes each. 5 minutes is what you're getting. So, why did we go out to Moldova in the first place? We went out to support Ukrainian refugees. That was the first and primary mission of going out to Moldova. As you know, we support Jon and Marinella in Romania, and we supported Oleg in Moldova. And as we've been sending out money and resources, Oleg asked if we could send people. And so that's what we wanted to do. So Moldova, the capital there, as you can see, is Chisinau. A population of about 2.6 million people. The number of Ukrainian refugees that they have taken there now stands at 674,000. That's a huge amount of people in what is quite a small country. The official language is Romanian, although a lot of the folk we spoke to were speaking in Ukrainian or Russian, and we're trying our best at English as well. So, I think this is dying. Is this not working out? This is Moldova. It's got a backup, don't worry. So that's Moldova there, the wee country with the arrow there. I should mention that I am not capable of doing this. This was Richard that sorted all this with the arrows. So, that's a picture of my alarm clock. The day we were leaving. That says 3:13 in the morning. I'm already up and dressed and ready to roll. That morning I woke up with a terrible, a terrible cold, flu, something. However, and after picking everybody up, we picked up the suitcases that were filled with the stuff that we were taking out to the guys in Moldova. And there's the team at the airport. Some of us looking slightly better than others at that time in the morning. We managed to get there. I don't know if you remember, it was a monsoon on the way to the airport, so we had everything against us. And then things got really, really bad. That was the name of our plane. Apologies, guys, from Largs. You don't get that. This is the old hen here, over on this side. We did not want to get on a plane that was emblazoned with our name on the side, especially after the morning that we had. There's another one going up. Is it you? Aye. I'll just shout. So, while we were in the airport, this was the sign that greeted us for hour after hour after hour. Relax, you're going nowhere, as if the plane was delayed. So, once we finally got to Moldova, that's the country of Moldova there. As I said, the capital there is Chisinau, and that is Balta up in the north as well. So we were going between the two places. Oleg has two churches, one in the north and one in the capital there. That was the view on the drive. It was pretty frosty when we got there. But the weather soon picked up and we actually had much nicer weather than you guys had here, which we weren't expecting. So, in Balta, that is pointing to the church. That's kind of like the second biggest city in Moldova. Again, Richard did the arrows. And that is where the church is there. That's a kind of really close-in view of where the church is. So it's kind of on the edge of the city there. And this is the capital, Chisinau. As you can see, that's where the church is.
Keep trying.
Up there.
Now we're going to get up.
We'll try again. Right. So, that's the capital there. This is where Oleg's church is, the one that he kind of takes biggest responsibility for on that side. And the airport, just for reference, is down here. Okay, so when we came in that night, we travelled across the city. There's a zoomed in church. That's where the church is there. So you can see that everything's kind of laid out in a grid system. And this green arrow was one of the kind of refuge centres, just to show you as well. Right, I'm going to hand over to Richard, and he's going to talk about something else.
Still talk about Moldova, is that okay? I'll get thrown out if I talk about something else altogether. Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much, Dave. I have no idea what slides he's got here next, so I'm going to be making this up as I'm going along, but Frank's going to hit me if I speak too long, so that's fine. That's a deal, isn't it, Frank? You owe me that one. This is a you owes me this one. I think Dave was asking me to talk particularly about the food distribution we did, because I'm the food bank man, because that's what I do here. In Belsa, on the Monday, some of us were tasked to go to the cash and carry, and we were going to get enough food for up to 220 people. And it's very different from the bags we put in the food bank here. We have a lot of tins and things that people can just heat up. There, the sort of things were rice and barley, cooking oil, all that sort of thing that people would cook with. It's a perfectly modern cash and carry. We were quite surprised how well stocked it was, weren't we? And with someone in every aisle to actually help you. So we think, it's a low wage economy, but lots of people employed. So we managed to get 220 of everything that we were tasked to do. Too many bus loads. That's us. And then we took it back to the church where we were due to bag it all up. I think they'd actually set aside most of the day for us to do that, but I soon whipped everyone in the shape, and we set up a production line, and we had it done in about an hour and a half, which was fine. But food distribution is really interesting because it seems it's very difficult to get the complete picture. You know, it's like the Americans flying into the UK, land in Glasgow, up to Inverness, see a few things down there, into Edinburgh and then home again, and done the country. The short time we were in Moldova, it's very difficult to get the complete picture. But in my understanding, if a refugee is going to stay in Moldova, they get a one-off payment of between 120 and 140 pounds from the government. It's a very poor government, they can't afford to maintain them after that. So all the food that the refugees then live on, and some of them have been there almost a year, is coming from charitable purposes. You know, so some of the money that was sent out from here would have been going to help put that food together. And we didn't realise at the time, that's the 220 bags, but on the Tuesday they had a church service. We didn't realise they'd actually brought that forward from the Thursday because we were there. And the church service was basically there for the Ukrainian refugees. There was about 80 of them in a room about, I don't know, it's about a quarter of this size, and then more waiting outside after the service. And we all handed the bags out, and David did a lot of talking to refugees. He'll speak about that later on as well. But we also handed out food in Belsa to some of the poorer Moldovans. We visited people's houses, about 5 of us at a time with the pastor, Sasha, visited folks' houses and gave food to Moldovans and some gypsy families as well. And they were all very, very grateful. So that was in Belsa. That's Sasha, the pastor, just in the centre there. It looks like I'm wrestling the bag there, but it's not, honestly. I was giving it to him, I wasn't taking it back from him. But we were all involved in that. Then on the Friday, the very last day that we were there, we went to a distribution centre. And these little huts along the front there belong to different charities. So New Hope Eurasia had one, but there was one for a Japanese charity and another one for a Korean charity. I'm not quite sure how other distribution worked. There was a Japanese charity working around the corner from us and handing out other things on that day, but people were not queuing up in the same way as we dealt with them. On that day, there was something like 550 people appeared to get food aid from us. And Oleg held an outside small service, and a few of us talked. And people were very grateful that we'd come from Scotland to help distribute food as well. We actually ran out of food that day, and we ended up going to some of the spare supplies as well. So there was over 600 bags, equivalent bags, handed out that day. So over the period we were there, you know, almost 850 bags handed out to people. And it made us think, I mean, how much this charity has to raise every week to actually be able to maintain that and the other services which you'll hear about from other people as well. And one of the things that really struck me, and that was the food just being delivered before we arrived. We just got in a line, there's Elizabeth there, we got in a line, she handed out the bags and we put in 2 items at a time. And at the end of the line was Colin. He was putting the last stuff in the bags. But it wasn't just the putting the things in the bags. It was the fact that Colin, in particular, at the end of it was going, have a nice day, and giving a big smile. Now, what struck me over the whole period, there are people like Oleg who has to raise, we reckoned he was working on a budget over £500,000 a year, didn't we? I don't know, I'm not really sure what it is, but to feed folk.
That's £1,200 that one day.
Yes. Yeah, and that was just the food. And look at the rest of the things he's doing as well. You get people like Oleg who can raise that sort of money. You get people, you'll see some of the folk that had nothing and were giving everything, taking people into their houses. And then you get folk who can put a big smile on folks' faces, like Colin, at the end of the line. But it's right. We may be smiling and laughing about this, but the people who've been working here before us were exhausted. The ones who've been handing out that stuff. And that smile and that wishing people a good day is as effective as the person who can raise hundreds of thousands of pounds. So the lesson for me from this was really, you don't have to be the one that can do the hundreds of thousands of pounds. You don't have to be the person that actually brings folk into your house. But if you can go out your way, and it might be slightly embarrassing to say, have a good day, how you doing, this is for you, that is just as important. And so, we all had a big part in what was actually happening there. All right, we've got Elizabeth and Chris next.
Yes. Okay, perfect. You want this?
Okay. Should be able to multitask, I suppose. Well, Jesus said to his disciples at one point, the poor you have with you always. So, what does that mean in a country like Moldova? Because Moldova is one of the poorest countries in Europe. Does that mean that the church just says, well, go home and we'll pray for you? Does the church just say, well, maybe you should have tried to be a bit harder, maybe you should get a job, or, we'll see what we can do to help you? Or does the church actually say, right, we're actually going to reach out to these people and we're going to actually help you in the name of Jesus? So let's see how this works. It does. Okay. So on the Monday, when the guys were having good fun at the cash and carry, 5 of us were detailed to put some stuff into bags, and we were going to take these bags round. So that was the 4 girls and David. Okay. So David's actually an honorary woman now. Oh, is that it? Right, okay. Well, he did actually help us behave ourselves. So what happened after that is we went out. Now, the first impression of going out was that we were in this minibus, and it was a rickety old minibus. And you know how you complain about when you go down your local street and there's potholes? Well, it's not a matter of that in Moldova, in the residential area. It's a matter of the fact that there's road between the potholes. Okay? So when you see a pothole next and you avoid it, think of how you actually do that in a minibus. It's not easy. Okay? This shows you the second thing that we noticed was when you got out of the minibus, your feet went into the mud. And we're talking not dry mud, we're talking squelchy mud. Okay? So when we were finished with that minibus, there was a pile, a mountain of mud there. Now the pictures there are some of the streets on the right hand side, and on the left you've got the railway line, and that is the Soviet built railway line, and that probably goes straight to Moscow. I'm not sure, and maybe if you didn't want to go to Moscow you just steer off that railway line. So this is us. We went in the bus and we had all the bags in the back, and we were going as we were, and it maybe seemed as if we were intimidating people, but we weren't. We were actually just going and because Sasha was known so well to everybody, he had a big smile and people knew him and welcomed him, and because of that they welcomed us as well. Now, you maybe have seen some poor areas, but this sort of takes the biscuit. The houses don't seem to have any town planning, shall we say, and although it was in a grid system, I don't think there was an awful lot of planning. And the interesting thing is you had really nice houses beside what were almost like chicken coops, but people were actually staying in these houses, and it was, they were going there. That was the first lady's house we went to. That was Sasha going down, and it wasn't a front door. It was a big carpet across it, and then you pulled the carpet, and then there was a door that you could get into the house. But that was your security, and that was your entrance into that house. So here you are, sorry, Mary, trying to climb down and make sure that we didn't fall off the steps, which of course didn't have any safety rules either. But the interesting thing was we went, and what we did is we explained who we were. One of us would explain who we were. One of us would hand over a bag and smile at the person, and we didn't really able to say very much, apart from, a big smile. And they were also given a Bible. And the Bible, everybody took the Bible. And it wasn't pushing anything at anybody. It was just saying, this is us. We want to give you something in the name of Jesus. We want to pray for you, which we did. And we want to just tell you why we're here, and we want to share the love that we have and the love that God has with you as well. And some of them were in tears. Maybe we were in tears as well. Nobody was embarrassed, really. but they were really thankful for that. And here's some more of the house. I can actually see better in this one than on the back one. But that just gives you an idea. And that was asbestos on the roofs as well, so they didn't have any options on safety and health and safety. This is natural gas. Now the problem with natural gas is it's not underground in pipes, it's above ground in pipes. And if anybody went into that with a lorry or a bus or anything like that, boom, that would be it. But that was what, that's how they lived, and that's what was left to them as part of the legacy from the Soviet Union. And here we are, and that's David, and we met this lady. She'd actually come, she'd seen the van, and she'd actually come and asked if she could get some help as well. So it wasn't the person that normally they would help, but this was the lady looking for help, and of course nobody was turned away. And there again, a very happy woman. And then we went into, away from these houses, and we went into an area which you can probably recognise as almost like Soviet bloc housing. And there were lots of people staying there. And again, you can see it's quite run down, you can see the gas pipes, but at least people had a roof over their head, and maybe that's what they were just happy for. And I'm just going to pass over to Elizabeth now, and she's going to tell you about Julia.
Thank you. When we arrived in Balti, it was their Christmas, and our first stop was at the church. There were lots of presents to be handed out to the refugee children, and we were lucky that we had 2 translators there. Sitting along from our group was a lady in a wheelchair who smiled throughout the whole service. The next day, half of the group went with Sasha to hand food bags out to the poor and the disabled. And whose house did we land at was Lilia, the lady in the wheelchair, and her husband Sergei. When Lilia was 3 years old, she went in for a routine operation, and it went wrong and left her body badly deformed. Sergei, who was 64, and Lilia, who was 58, had been married for 18 years, and he is Lilia's full-time carer. He pushes Lilia in her wheelchair every Sunday to church in all weather, 5 kilometres to church and 5 kilometres home. They live in a multi-storey apartment on the 2nd level, and there is no lift. The building was built about 80 years ago. They made us very welcome, and we had a lovely cup of tea and biscuits with them. The next afternoon there was a kids' club at the church. The boys and girls were seated in a circle, and Frank was on the floor busy showing them things to make. I looked across and I saw this boy in a red sweatshirt, biting his nails, and he looked very sad, and I got quite emotional, so I plucked up courage and I went over and gave him a hug. And I told him my name, and I was lucky as he spoke a little English. We were able to use my iPhone with the Google translation from English to Russian. Then he would type something in Russian and I would come across up in English. He told me his name, and it was Alex, and he was 10 years old. And he had a little sister and was living with his mum. He just reminded me of my grandson, Julian, in America. And I asked him to write his name down for me, so I've got that as a lucky token. I would like to send a photo of him to Sasha to try and trace him, and I wondered if he'd like to be a pen pal or more modern, a friend on email with my grandson. I feel very privileged to have been included in the group, and I would definitely go back to Moldova. Oleg and Marina do a fantastic job out there. Oleg said his great friend is Jim Martin, so it's thanks to Jim Martin for getting the great chance to go to Moldova.
You see, we weren't only having an effect on the people there, they had a real effect on us as well. And here's another picture of a des res, maybe not. And there you've got the chickens, you sort of maybe that was their way of getting eggs and maybe some fresh meat as well. But here was Sasha's father that we went to visit. This is, I think it was where actually Sasha stayed. This was his house. So you can see he didn't have a sort of big fancy house. He was actually living with the people who they were ministering to. And then this is one of the Soviet bloc type houses that we went to, again to meet people. And can you imagine going in there at night time in the dark? No, you wouldn't like to, would you? And along there, and it's almost, you've got that feeling of being enclosed in there. Now that was where people were staying. And it was almost as if it was just a one bedroom and a living room all together. And this lady was very ill, but she was so glad to see us, and we prayed for her, and we shared with her, and she was just so glad to see us, and that was quite amazing. And then another lady who definitely wasn't going to sit down, she wanted everybody else to sit down, Sergeant would say, and again, just being able to share with these people was such a privilege to all of us. There we go. Now, in the afternoon, we went out with the guys. Some of them had come back, and we went out again because we hadn't given all the bags out in the morning. And as you see, Richard, this was the window. Plastic covering over it. Probably wouldn't keep out much in the way of wind and rain, or maybe it might, but certainly not what you would want as part of your house. And of course they kept much of their stuff outside because it was so small, the houses as well. And there we have a family there, and I think it was 3 children, and again they were just so overwhelmed to be handed things out. And they nearly did get married to take a dog home with her. We're not sure you've got a dog in the house, have you? That's all right. Yeah. The dogs, if you like dogs, I like dogs, so do I. The dogs are just totally wild. They're not, in a sense, a pack, where they're going to attack you, but they're just stray dogs. And so we did fall in love with the dogs, even if we couldn't bring them home with us. And this is somebody's house, and you can see there's not much in the way of luxury there. And again, I think this was a gypsy family, and we were giving them a bag and the Bible. And again, as I say, everybody was just pleased to take it. And this was interesting because I don't know what your stereotype of gypsies might be. You might think of the camps. Sorry? Okay, Mum. I'm doing it for 2. So I get 10 minutes. Honestly, I'm just about to finish. Tell me. This gypsy family. It was a brilliant place. It was so tidy. It was well ordered, and the children were going to school, and we were just so happy again. So whenever you think gypsies, don't just think of an encampment of people who aren't looking after themselves or anything like that. These are people with dignity, and people who have, sort of just the image of God in them, as much as we have the image of God in us.
Those guys had such good manners, brilliant English.
Yeah, these kids spoke English.
The kids were great.
Very, very polite kids.
Yeah, there we go. And it was all done really on the basis of reaching out in the name of Jesus. And I think that is perhaps the thing of them actually using the opportunities to actually reach out to people, to show the love of Christ, and just to tell people that they were cared for. And if that had an impact, which I'm sure it did, then it was well worthwhile. Thank you very much.
You gave out quite a lot of Bibles, didn't you?
I'd like the next one, I'll tell you who's next.
So when we were in Balti, this was one of the mother and children's homes that we visited, and I had a ball. I'm a nursery teacher, so I really had a good time playing with the wee ones, and we were able to sing songs with them. We were singing like Wheels on the Bus, and head, shoulders, knees and toes. Although it was difficult because of the language barrier, we were still able to even smile with them and just play with the kids. And all the mums, these mums were kind of kind of people who, like refugees, and who'd flown from like domestic abuse, who'd come here to live at the church, and they all lived together in a lovely house, and they've got a communal area for the kids to play as well, and it was just lovely. And we showed them video, like Harris playing his pipes and things as well, and they were so fascinated. And I managed to kind of roughly kind of talk with a woman at the back there who was communicating that her son is like the same age as like Harris, and she's got a wee girl as well. And it was really nice to be able to talk to people, and I had a lovely time. And then in Balti we also had a kids club. And that was where Frank was in his element down on the floor. Yeah. And here we were, there was a demonstration going along the plank, and it was, I can't remember what it was again. It was
God was on one side.
God was on one side, and then like the person was
on
on, and then it was like
you were
inside.
trying to jump from one chair to the other, and it wasn't possible.
Yeah.
So the plank across, and the plank was Jesus.
Health and safety.
Yeah, nothing to do with it.
Sasha was holding her hands on the glass.
Yeah, it was good. They had a really nice time. It was good, and this is where we met the wee boy as well. Yeah, the wee boy with the red sweater. They were a lovely bunch, and again, we didn't speak. They spoke a little bit of English, some of them, but again, we were able to just talk through smiles, and we managed to communicate with them. We had a lovely time. And so again, here, what we did was we read a Bible story to them, one of them that was given to us from the donations, and we read the Bible story, and then we made some things with our like Play-Doh, and I told them to make an animal, but as you can see, they didn't really do that. They just felt having fun and making moustaches and making rings and everything like that. They just had a ball, really. They were really good with kids. And then back in Chisinau, we went to a mother and children's home there as well. And again, that was run by the church. And in this home, there's only 2 mums there, but there was another mum on her way. These ladies would have come from a background of that they didn't know love. They had never seen how to be loved. They didn't know how to love their children. They didn't know how to look after their children. So there was a lady here who was helping her do that, and she was in charge of that kind of like group. She was the kind of manager of that project. And here they've got, so this was us. That was their area for their like kind of kitchen area, and then they had another area which was kind of the playroom for all the children, and then they each had a room. Each, and they had in this room there was a bed for the mums and a bed for the child and a cot, and they all had an ensuite bathroom as well. It was actually quite luxurious. It looked really nice. So then again, that's the playroom, a bit of a mess, and then that's someone having their dinner as well. And then last of all, we went to a women's fellowship in Chisinau. And that really spoke a lot to me. I really enjoyed that, and we had a lot of time there. We talked about family. That was the main kind of theme of it. And I was able to talk about my family with like Harris and Freya, and I was able to talk about my church family, which is all of you guys. And it was really nice to talk to them and get in amongst it. And there was actually this lady who came to that women's fellowship, and it was because that was the first time she'd come, and it was because of us. She saw us at the food bank in the morning and thought what a great job we were doing, and wanted to come and meet us. And so she got in touch with Oleg, and she came, which actually worked out well because we didn't have a translator, so she ended up being our translator. Oh, this is us, and we handed out wee gifts of soap and kind of like moisturiser for them as well. And they were all, it was just a bunch of people. There was like from Ukrainian refugees to Moldova, people of Moldova as well, all gathered in this church, and what a feast they got. And it was definitely something I'd like to do here as well.
The house mothers in Belsa, the house mother in Belsa was actually a psychologist, and they worked with not just the young mums, and they would stay there for 3 years. So they would help them, teach them to cook, teach them, even if they want to go through college, they help them through college as well. And there was teenage girls lived in the other sort of house on the other side, and had a house mother who would do the same as well. So it wasn't just, it was a very structured programme for them, which obviously, made a difference, a huge difference. Sorry, Colin.
Hello. I'm not very good at this, but I'll try my best. So here I am, I'm with Frank, inside this lovely house, what I've never seen before, inside this lovely room. Because these children, what is on the beds, that's their home, so they love it. So I loved being there on that day with them. This is on the Monday afternoon, after we've done the bags and that. And I had the chance of building up these bunk beds. So Richard here and this guy here, I don't know who he might be, but he's a guy. So I will keep it short because this day, these bunk beds were really easy to put up because of the second challenge. It was really harder to put up because we only had one side, two sides, and maybe half a side, and the rest, and that we had to build ourselves. So,
except you only gave us 3 pieces.
So this day and we had a rug and that, we put it down the rug and that after we put up the bunk beds, which we should have really, after we thought about it. Again, after we thought about it, put the carpet in first, but we've done it the back to front. But we managed to see the day out, and we really enjoyed that day, and that just really cheers me up. So, and this is other photos there, that's us all there, the mother of these 2 kids, and there was another kid as well. What the other kid isn't in the photo because I hear that came into the house and says, "What's all going on here?" So I was like, "We're going to move with scorky eyes." So then as I hear that disappeared to go and help someone out across the road or down the road or around the bends to get a bit of pocket money, like we all done whenever we were young. So that's the mother there and that. And
that's Spetty on that side, and Veal on the other side.
Right, okay, man. Right. That's that one. Right, Richard.
Colin, what about you saw the boys a few days later?
Aye, that's Richard for the
You did that, hey.
I'm Richard.
Just going to go back a slide, so just let you know, so these 2 wee boys, they were twins, and I think it was really strange going into this house because it was the poverty was massive, as you've been shown already. They didn't have running water, they didn't have a toilet, they had a bucket in the corner with fresh water, and where they got that from, they had a bucket down there that they used for waste. Just had a big pile of polenta, that's what they ate, and then they were getting that from the food bank and everything. But you've got myself and Frank and Colin walking in, and it'd be quite daunting for this lady with the children there. And we went in, but actually within a couple of hours and putting the bed up and everything, she felt quite welcoming to us as well. And Frank got a hug on the way out, I got a wee hug out on the way out as well, just nice, and we didn't expect that. What was really nice was the next day, we've already seen some pictures of the children's club, is that these 2 boys, and we thought we'd driven miles to get there. But these two wee boys turned up at the children's club, and they came in, didn't they? And they sat next to Colin, and they're telling him he's had a good night's sleep, like thumbs up, and it was just so magical to see them when they came in the next day. It was tremendous. And they're living in that, and they had an elder brother who'd left. The husband had died. He was ill, so they had no income coming in. So their elder brother, who Colin had mentioned, he was about maybe 12, 13, had just gone out, earned some pocket money, and that was the only income that this family had coming into the house. So quite privileged to go in there and to be able to do something for them and change those kids' lives, so just to give them a comfortable bed. We're very lucky. So we've already been talking a little bit there about the size of the operation and the work that God's doing over there, and the church it's just massive. Emma's pointed out, that they've got the mothers and the children, and Richard also alluded that we've got the girls in the houses. This is all happening on top of the poverty, and top of handing out the food, and then all the Ukrainian piece on top of the refugees giving all that food. You're saying 500,000. I might double that what the income is that Oleg's looking at. It's a huge operation what they're doing. We had the privilege of meeting the girls that were living in these houses next to the church. And this is where we're in their boats. We're in the north here. This is 4 of the girls that were sort of introduced to us. It was I don't know, it just really felt strange and uncomfortable because there was a language barrier. They were brought into the room, and Sasha had gone off, and I think it was something planned or whatever. I felt awkward. I went out and got the packet of Uno playing cards that Maisie had sent with me. She said, "You've got to take these, Daddy, and if the kids want them, you can leave them," she said. And I pulled out the Uno, and the 4 girls then started joining in. They wanted to play straight away, and straight away they felt at ease with us. I think that helped us build relationships. I think from playing games and sitting with them, we got to know a lot more about the work that they're doing there with the children and the young people that are there. So the picture in the top corner there, you can see they're all just sitting there. It was always like they're in front of us, and what do we do? So we split ourselves up. So there was a grown-up table. They went and played their own game of Uno, and then the kids, me and Colin and that, we played with girls. But you can then see, one of the pictures is missing, of course, but you can see then in the other picture of the other evenings, we were there for 3 nights, sleeping in their rooms actually. We put them out of their rooms, I felt a bit guilty about that. But the next 2 nights, they were actually involved with us, and they were sitting in with us. They weren't just sitting all together, they were that relaxed that they could then come around and share with us. And we had great fellowship with these girls. Something I'll always remember is sitting there and playing Uno with them, have a lot of fun. Well, I would say if you're playing Uno with any of these people, the house rules constantly change.
That goes for him as well.
Maybe. I'll blow off Maisie, she told me. So, and then this is when we're down in the capital again, and we met some more of the girls, and they shared their stories with us, and had the biggest game of Uno ever. Colin was great. You can see they're all looking at Colin there, wondering what that's Colin in the middle of the baldy head. They're all looking at his cards, because he was quite happy to show them. Your cards are whatever your cards are. He said, "You just got to play it."
I thought that he was a card, so...
But these girls came from really different backgrounds. We met a girl whose mother was in jail, and she had nothing, and they brought her off the streets. Some of these girls are orphans, and they brought them in, and they're educating them, and they're getting them ready for life, and they're staying there for maybe several months in the hope that they might stay longer, or they might go on and move on to further things. So this is amazing, the work they're doing, and I can't begin to try and explain to you how big the work is that they're doing there, and the love of God that these guys are getting. Just a quick picture in the airport. These girls were practicing Uno on the way, because I mentioned I had them, so they were just working out what the rules were and how they could win. Just sort of throw that picture. So this is on the Wednesday afternoon when we were in the capital. Oleg took us to this house, and it had been burnt down. There'd been a few repairs done to it, and there was, I'd say, 15, 16 people living here. This is a gypsy family. This is Moldovan gypsies. when we're talking about the poor doing amazing things over there, they've taken in Ukrainian gypsies, refugees that come over. So they've taken them into their house. This again is a house that's got no heating, it's got no plumbing, it's got no running water, no electricity or anything, but they took them in. This little girl, I love this picture because I was kind of known as a sweetie man. I always had pockets of sweets, so I was handing out sweets to the kids and everything. But this little girl and her brothers and sisters and her family lived in this tiny little house. It was so run down. There's a picture there of a rose. This is where they went and got any income. They'd buy roses and then they'd go and stand at traffic lights, try and sell them to passing cars. This is where the income for this family came from. Terribly poor. You can just see in the longer picture at the bottom, towards the left-hand side, there's a wee pile of wood there. And I'll tell you, that changed into a big pile of wood, but I'll come on to that maybe in a moment. Here's some pictures of the inside. So, sorry, just go back to the house. It's kind of cut in half. And on one half, this is where the Ukrainian gypsy refugees were living. And that's their stove. Where you've got the kettle and the pot, that's their stove, and they just burnt rubbish. That pile of wood they couldn't cut up because they didn't have any saws to cut the wood up, so they just burnt any rubbish they found. And there's cardboard lining the walls there. That's the insulation in that building, that's what kept them warm. And it was warm in there, probably because it was 15 degrees outside, though. We had really sunny weather. It was t-shirt and shorts weather. We're all in our thermals and roasted. There we go. And then this is the other side of the house, so a little bit more comfortable because this is where the gypsy family, the Moldovan family, have been living. This is their bed, so they've got like a settee. That's where the wee man was lying, sleeping. And that was a single bed. And you can see the number of pillows on that bed. That's the number of people that were sleeping in this wee room, in this lady's house. I think she sort of headed up the family, that's how I imagined it, or she kept anonymous. But anyway. So this is the house. They've got plastic over the windows, there's no glass. They've got a door with ill-fitting glass that's dangerous. And even more so, you can't really see it maybe there, but there's no gable end on that house. It burnt down. It was just embers. It was black, it's charcoal, it was nothing. In fact, I've got a picture in a minute, but I'm up there thinking at any time this roof's going to come down on us. Oleg asked if we could help them out. Because he said, you're coming all back tomorrow, can you help them? We're like, yeah, okay, what can we do? He goes, well, you can help them chop some wood, there's a bit of painting to be done, we're going to bring a bed along. You can just put that up, we've been donated this bed, and if you could just fix the end of that roof for us. So, the next day, we've already alluded to it here a bit, so we got a bed. It was a bunk bed with two ends on one side panel. That was all that came. So we're looking at it going, this isn't a bed. We've got a handful of tools that didn't really work, so we've got hand saws that weren't sharp, that weren't cutting the wood. We've got a load of people watching us. Some of the smaller pictures there you can't maybe see, that they're just standing there in awe as we're trying to do something with not a lot. We didn't have the tools nor the materials. And there's the dogs, they were just bored of us and they went to sleep. So, quite the challenge that we had. I'd spoken the night before with Dave and Richard about what we could do, what skills we have. We've got quite an eclectic mix here, you see, we're all very different. David said that. And actually, every one of us had a gift there that we could then go and share and do something. So we split it up. David very kindly said he was going to go and chop wood. He didn't know that there wasn't an axe and there wasn't a spoon. It might be his penknife he was using. We had Emma and Mary, they were going to entertain the children. We had a couple of painters here, Chris and Elizabeth. Of course, we had experts making beds, so I've got Frank and Colin on the job of making a bed with nothing, let's face it. And then maybe myself and Richard, a bit taller, we were going to do the roof with Dave, who I found out doesn't like going up ladders. So we ended up in a great state. Anyway, we had nothing, and I went off to what would be called the local B&Q, I suppose, with a non-English speaking person, and I couldn't speak any Ukrainian or Russian or anything. And I filled up the van with a whole load of wood. And we came back, and Frank and Colin designed a bed. We ended up with a double bunk bed. A double bunk bed. And the top, I'll tell you quite confidently, took my weight. I hope it's still standing. Took my weight. And to give you an idea, I'm 3 amazing. So there's at least 4 kids could get up on the top of there. So we gave them a double bunk bed, which was amazing. We tidied it up with paint. We've got David there. He was teaching the kids to saw and chop wood. I went off, I bought a bow saw as well, which we left with them. We left them with tools so they could cut the wood. And then, as you can see, we manufactured some sort of frames so we could put the board up and finish off the house for them. It was quite a trying day because we didn't have the right tools, we didn't have the materials. We eventually got the materials, but then we didn't have the tools. So we're manufacturing a bed and we're building the end of a house, sharing a screwdriver. Frank's going, "Where's the screwdriver?" I'm going, "I've got it here." And eventually, sorry? We were given 2 battery-powered drills that ran out within the first 5 minutes.
The house doesn't have electricity.
No electricity. So eventually there was a shop that somebody found, it must have been 300, 400, 500 yards away, wasn't it? And they ran a cable, well, many cables, all the way around.
The cable went to the car park attendant's hut.
Car park attendants.
I slipped them some money for his.
So finally we ended up like, what I will say is, we didn't have the right materials and we didn't have the right tools. Pulling this team together, we achieved all of that, albeit it was a long day. The time we spent working was only about 4.5 hours to pull all that together. So it's amazing what gifts we were given. We talked about God putting us together, what a bunch to put together, but we did it. We did it. And not only that, there's pictures there of just people watching us. They joined in to see the kids helping out and everything. This next picture just shows some of the joy that was shared that day. And it's the smiles, everybody getting involved. Oh, they brought pizza. We ate a lot of pizza. But there's the children there, they're cutting the wood. I can't remember, one of them's Anton and Annie, I can't remember their names, I'm terrible with names. But they're so happy that they've got this bed to sleep on. They thumbs up and everything. Picture in the middle, and somebody can maybe correct me here, I don't know, they were from gifts from here. Bracelets. Those bracelets came from here, and then that was handing them out to the guys there. So, just amazing. It's amazing what this group of people achieved and what we gave over there. This is Oleg going in, putting the last few screws in, checking. That's actually Frank and Colin praying that the bed's going to take weight. But you can see that it got dark. We were still finishing off in the dark, but you can see there we actually completed and made it watertight for them. And if there was any wind, it would have protected them. So it's an amazing experience. That was a whole day's worth of work, which we never expected we would be doing. But this is what everybody achieved through you guys getting us over there. So thank you for that.
I don't have my glasses on. I can't read any of this. Well, that just says my name. That's good enough. Right, yes, church. So we arrived on, well, our first day was a Sunday. So, of course, we went to church. The first church we went to was, it's not this one.
The next one.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yes.
Yes. It was in the capital city. And it was quite a lovely church service. We had a couple of people up singing. Sasha did the same talk 3 times. I think I could repeat it word for word. I heard that talk over and over again. It was very special. The part I found most special, of course you guys heard my testimony today. I think in a baptism, that's pretty much the only time you would share a testimony. Yeah, is that true? They wanted to share testimonies constantly. That was what they liked doing. and it was the first time I'd ever shared my testimony, and it was very emotional. But I got to hear other people's testimonies, and that was also very emotional, because it was the first day I'd been with these people, and hearing about how God is changing their lives was just incredible. And that's something that was really special in Moldova. These people had been through significant trauma. If they weren't from Ukraine and had been through trauma, through war, lots of the women had been sexually abused, or were fleeing domestic violence. There was nobody without issue. And seeing how God was working in their lives and them telling us through their testimonies was just the most incredible experience. It was the first time I'd ever prayed with anyone in a group. It was the first time I ever laid hands on anyone. And we couldn't speak the same language. In this church, I was with a lady that was crying as her sister had been hit by a car. And laying hands on this lady and praying for her was really quite special, especially because I was confused for the first 2 minutes because I had no idea what she was crying. Not a clue. So yeah, I found that, oh, is that what's done? Just good pictures, that's fair enough. Yeah, I don't really, it's just about it. It was a very special church service. That one there it was so crowded. There was people standing at the door, really warm, and it was just lovely. They got us on stage, everyone was saying hello. That one in particular was exceptionally welcoming. It was so lovely, and that's where we met Lillian, yes, for the first time. So it was very special. Sundays are, of course, such a special day anyway. So being able to partake in another service from a different country was an experience I didn't expect I'd ever have. It was incredible. Who's next? Oh, good luck.
I just want to say one wee thing, just about what Mari was saying about the women and families that have been suffering trauma. If you think about it, the population of Moldova is 2.5 million. They have had 600,000 people through as refugees. That's 600,000 women and children. 300,000 at least have stayed. So that percentage added to your population of women and children who have suffered trauma must be an incredible time bomb that needs the support of the church and everyone else who can actually do it there. Sorry, Frank.
No, that is already apologised. Right,
Sorry, can I just sort just to take away from just to give you an idea, so the government there are supporting the people that are coming at the moment, but they're only getting €150 that each family is getting as they come, and then they're going into these refuges, and that's all they've got, and it doesn't go very far at all. So there is support as they come over there. This is the poverty in the country that they're going into, unfortunately. There's just not the money there to help and support them. That's what I was going to say.
Right, I'm going to be the shortest of all. I am now officially the chaplain to the Moldovan fire service. Right? And I've got the fire chief's hat. Actually, his name in it.
Does he know you're talking about?
So, I'm going to keep my hat on. Anyway, what happened was we didn't expect to be going to a fire station. It wasn't on the agenda. We had folks, you can see that the team wasn't picked. We had loads of skills. You with your kids, me with working with kids. I thought I would go in and I'd do a one with Dave and talk in church. We ended up doing a huge range of stuff. Fire station was the bonus for me, because I would, until very recently, I'd done for 4 years, I was the chaplain to the fire service in 4 stations in Fife. So when we went to the fire station, I mentioned this to Owen, he said, well, you need to talk. So I did. All these folks in the fire station were, you could do it for me, right? What are soldiers. The fire service is a regiment in the army, basically. What we went there to do was actually to give food boxes to these fire servicemen. Have you got that? If you can see. And we all gave them out. These guys, that was supplementary food. Although they were employed and they were in the army, they get the equivalent of about £110 a week. Out of that, we discovered that they'd actually decorated the place and they'd had to use their own money to get it painted. So, it was supplementing their income. They got something like 10 days off every 6 months. As I say, the income was low. The morale seemed to be high though, because again, they were a team. Now, I've never been hugged by a lieutenant colonel before. Not a guy anyway, and that's the chap there. He was also called Oleg. And I got chatting to him, and what I did is I said that when I was back, when I saw the equipment, if you got one of their equipment, that is the newest, and it's 12 years old, and it came from Austria. That one is the only one with a ladder on it. It is up to 8 floors. The average building's got 16. It was made in 1979. Inside it, it's the same colour as our green goddesses. Do you remember some of your fire strike a few years ago? And they had the army in it. So it's an old military one. That's us with the Moldovan Fire Service badge. There was one woman worked with them, but again, because it was army, she wasn't allowed to be a serving firefighter because that's front line. So she worked in the office. That's the dorms in that area. Their equipment, the fire service chief had an old German one on, because most of their kit's been old kit handed down. I was deeply moved when I saw that they were putting these people in harm's way, like we've just heard of the firefighters who died here, and not giving them the right kit, not giving them sufficient kit, old stuff. It was really quite harrowing. The other guys were very patient while we did this. I've spoken since I got back to the fire service here. They're not able to do any physical giving of stuff because everyone's going to Paraguay this year, so they've got to choose. But we're going to send a team out to train the guys on the 23rd of May for about 6 or 7 weeks. And I even spoke yesterday, on Friday, at the fireman's funeral, to the Environment Minister, the Communities Minister who's in charge of it. It turns out, believe it or not, she's a Christian. Wow. She said we've been praying about it as well. So it's still going on. But the level of poverty, even amongst the guys, and I know it's all relative, the cost of living and things, I was just gutted. And as I say, I ended up being enrolled. They said we'd love to have a chaplain. So I got the badges, and I got the hat, and I'll try and go back. Okay? Thanks. David?
Hello everybody, I'll be very brief because I can see a bit of tiredness has crept in. I'll keep this really to a few stories that I can relate to you about people I met. My main job was actually to talk to people, and it was the refugees from Ukraine who I was talking to. So I met a family from Kharkiv. A lovely older woman. She'd been 8 months under Russian occupation. She'd suffered terribly. She was interrogated frequently. The security situation was awful. She was in tears. And some of our team were able to gather around her and pray for her. And that meant a huge amount. And there's another family from Bakhmut who's very much in the news. It was a single woman. Her boyfriend was a taxi driver in Chisinau. And while she was getting the food from the boys here, I was talking to her boyfriend in French, believe it or not, my schoolboy French. So I was meeting people all the way around, and then I met some men. There weren't very many men out there with the women because they're all supposed to be back fighting the war. But I did meet a 6'7" bloke, massive, a welder who'd been working in Poland when the war broke out. His family did a runner of refugees into Moldova, and he decided he would go and help his family. Right after that, I met another bloke who was a massive, really strong bloke, looked like a front row forward. And incidentally, I can see now why the Russians are having so much difficulty fighting these guys. The men are very, very physical. Anyway, this very physical guy was just about in tears when he was explaining to me the moral dilemma he faced about whether he should stay and support his family or whether he should go back to Ukraine and fight in the army. I met a guy who was slightly older. He'd been in the military. He was an artillery officer in the Soviet era, and he'd been with the Russian military, the Soviet military, in Siberia. And so it went on. We were meeting people like that all the time. It was fascinating. It was a great trip. I really felt I got a lot more out of the trip than I put into it. And I felt that we were doing our bit. All the bits that we put into it. I felt that we were standing in the gap with the Moldovan church, this church with all that. And we were basically trying to support the Ukrainian refugees. We were helping them, rallying around. And they were so appreciative. We're giving out all the food, giving out vitamin pills, giving out fresh fruit, and surprisingly, dozens and dozens of Bibles. And I was amazed at the number of people who wanted Bibles in Russian. So we did our bit. We tried to bless the people out there. And in doing so, we were blessed ourselves.
Just a few pictures there. That's what we were saying about giving out the food with a smile.
Frank had said something at the sort of service we had when the food was handed out, and Oleg had introduced us, saying that we come all the way from Scotland and we were just normal people, and that understanding that we were just normal people from another country that were standing with them, that they really appreciated that. You can't express how much that actually meant to folk. That folk from the one that moved me most, I think he'd said about was we went into someone's house and the lady was very ill, and she was in bed, and she burst into tears of joy that someone from another country cared enough to come and visit her, cared enough to come and pray with her, cared enough, and you wouldn't have imagined going in advance that just the act of being there was supportive. It really was, sorry.
Absolutely, that's exactly what I was about to say. It was amazing just to be there, and for the folk who were there to appreciate us being there. We didn't necessarily think that would be a case. We're just there giving out food, or we're just there doing kids clubs, but actually it was really appreciated. It was a long trip. We were physically tired, certainly by the time we were coming home. We're all in varying levels of health.
It's not your fault.
Actually, I think that was Daniel that gave you.
No.
So we got back after going through airports and all kinds of things. We managed to get back to Edinburgh, only to be greeted with the following sign. That's my car with a puncture. So we immediately had to set about trying to find. We don't have any power in the car, so we had to get Richard's car hooked up to mine, and it rounded off the trip wonderfully. But this is one of the many things that we'll take from this trip, was the aspect of team. And we're all round the table there, as you can see. We're all enjoying each other's company. We've all worked together to do God's work in Moldova, and in particular amongst the Ukrainian refugees. And in all of the pictures, it's all about the people that we have met. The smiles that were on their faces. The conversations, like David was saying, that we were able to have with some of them. And the way that we've been able to affect their lives, even just in that short period of time. Absolutely amazing. But one of the things that struck us while we were over there was, it wasn't just our team. Our team were made up from so much more than just the 10 of us. Because you guys were here praying for us while we were out there. You guys were here bringing all the stuff and the donations so that we could take them out. And not just here, from actually right across the East Nuke, which was awesome that the East Nuke came together to bless the Ukrainian refugees in particular in Moldova. So it was about our team, but it was also about the team that we met while we were out there. Oleg has surrounded himself with amazing people, folk who have got real talent and gifts, and it was fantastic to meet those guys as well. And one of the aspects that we've brought back with us is that aspect of team. And we spoke about that a bit the other night at the deacons meeting, the importance of having teams, folk who can support each other, because that's how the work gets done. So that was fantastic, and to have that backed up as well. So it brings us to what next? Are we done? We're finished? Probably not. There's still more work that can be done. Oleg has asked for more people to go out. And I think for us, now that we know what is out there, we don't have to go out and be shown everything again. Because that was a large part of what we were doing, is being shown all the different aspects to the project. And the guys have talked about how big and massive that is. We know the kind of stuff that can be done. We know what can be done in quite a short time, so we know already what we would do going back out again. There's a whole bunch of things that we would look to do, but we could be more organised in doing it. And one of the things that we, as a team, showed to the team out there was the fact that everybody does have skills, everybody does have leadership qualities. It doesn't all have to rely around one person. We were all as a team. The day we were out there, the first few days, it was a Sunday, and then there was a couple of services. I had no voice. So the guys stepped up, we were a team. And that was great to see, and that's something that we would definitely, I think we've left with them, the way that we work together. So we need to continue to support the guys out there. That is for sure. But we also want to question, what does that experience, how does that impact us here? Is there learning experiences that we can take from that and use here in the East Nuke? How do we do things? How do we be teams? And that's one of the things that we haven't quite finished evaluating. When we first came back, we did a quick kind of, what have we learned, what have we done on our trip? And it was about the size of the operation and all that stuff that I shared with you on the day we got back this Sunday. But then after a few weeks, or a couple of weeks, we were able then to sit down together again and go, so what were the stories, what was the key learning? And some of that's what we've shared with you tonight. The next stage for us is to let all that decompress, and then we can look at what can we do next? How can we help them? How can we continue to support both Oleg, but but also the work that Jon is doing in Romania. He is also working with Ukrainian refugees, and this is just one of our partners that we have supported in the way that they wanted us to do. But we've got Jon as well working. I think, is it 50 trips he's done now? 30 trips into Ukraine and delivering food aid to the guys who are still in Ukraine. So there's a whole bunch of work still to be done, and we look forward to talking with you about how we support that work going forward. We hope...
This is just a personal interest. Of course, I'm a politics student, so I'm not sure if anyone really knows about the politics system in Moldova, but it's kind of like it's still a half-communist country. In the last week, the government is falling. Please be praying for Moldova, be praying for their parliament system, because the country is struggling as it is, and this last week has been really difficult. We've reached out to Sasha, and Sasha's doing okay, but they had a riot in 2015, and people got injured and stuff, so just keep it in your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. We hope you enjoyed that, or learned from it, or appreciated it. And we've been delighted just to be able to share it with you. I think you'll hopefully see that we all had a really good time. But as David said, we potentially got out more than we put in, which wasn't necessarily what any of us kind of anticipated. Does anybody have any questions? Yes?
I think by looking at what we achieved is, it can surely be a real blessing for every one of us in this room to see what God really does for us. Because sometimes we complain for something that we complain about what we don't have, what we do, how we do it, and when we see what's going on in these countries, we used to be there, and you see it straight out, you're like, wow, you probably, as you said, all of you was tears, emotional, and I think really going forward, although we're in a cost of living crisis, not to see it tonight, or sitting on the roofs hanging off, or we're running in water, or no electric,
You've not seen my roof, Heather. No, you're right though, and
I think we really have to say, Lord, how thankful are we every day that the everyday things we take for granted, like food on our table, like clothes on our back, like money in our pocket, may not be much, but something to get by on, that we are blessed by God. God is in that song, County of Blessed is the name of the Lord my God, surely must be a real thing that you put in your mind. You never ever count them, however old you are, if you're up to your 80 or 90 or 100. How many times are you going to say, Lord, you bless me?
no, I think that's right. I think that's something that we've kind of certainly thought about while we've been over there, and one of the learning points that we've brought back. Any other questions? Do you want to go home? Cool. Let me pray for you before we go. Loving God, we thank you for this time that we have been able to be together. Time where we've been able to share some of the stories about the work that you are doing. And as we think about that work, we are just in awe of the way that you work, the scale that you can work on, from the individual, one-to-one, face-to-face, to the multi-thousand-pound organisation dealing with hundreds and hundreds of people. Father, tonight we thank you for Oleg and his team, for Sasha, for Vasily, for Igor, for all the guys that work to make sure that your work is done. We thank you for the women who are being taken care of for the first time, for the kids who are so excited to come to Kids Club, for the thankfulness that they had as they were given new beds, for the way the gospel is shared, and for the people who come to believe in it, for the food given out, for the Ukrainian refugees. Father, we pray for them all. We pray for an end to war. And we pray for better living conditions for refugees, but also for the poorest in Moldova. We pray for the continued work of Oleg and the team. We pray that you would bless them, that you would supply the resources they need, and that you would show us how to best work with them in the future. And also we pray for Jon and for Marinella, doing very similar work from the Romanian side of things. We pray for them, we pray for the runs into Ukraine, we pray that you would bless that work, that you would keep them safe, and that you would allow them to bless those people in that war zone, all in the name of Jesus. Father, we pray these things in your name. Amen. Thanks for coming, folks.